So a very good morning and welcome to the Heist on Swansea High Street. My name is Mal Pope and it's my joy to welcome a live audience here and an audience around the world for this very special presentation this morning. Today is the 50th anniversary of the passing of one of Swansea's finest poets. His name is Vernon Watkins, and I'm delighted to say this morning we have a world premiere of a brand new old play written by his widow Gwen Watkins, and I'm delighted to say that Gwen's our guest this morning, so a very big round of applause for Gwen. If that's okay. Gwen, welcome to the Heist. I'm really excited to see the play being performed. You wrote it quite a long time ago, didn't you?
Ages ago, I think. What year are we in now?
It's 2017.
Oh, well, in the 1940s.
Oh, really?
Well, no, after the war, soon after the war, when I got to know Vernon and his casual films, because Vernon used to talk immensely about the war days, the Kardomah days that meant so much to him.
Now, where did you meet Vernon? They tell me he was at Bletchley Park.
Yes, I met him at Bletchley Park. That's where all the people that they had to do some war service, but they were quite strange, so they couldn't really fit in extraordinary. Vernon was an RAF policeman for 18 months.
That was something that made Dylan Thomas laugh quite heartily, wasn't it?
I don't know. I think he was used to Vernon doing strange things. But being a policeman, I think, was probably one of the strangest things he did. And they rapidly moved him to Bletchley. But he had many very strange stories to tell. How he and two other policemen went to London on a bender and got drunk. And came back and the camp was shut. And they all had to climb over the wall. And Vernon, who of course had climbed Gower cliffs and caves and everything, but he had to drag the other two over almost physically. There you are.
He was quite a quiet man. You were quite surprised that he asked you out. It took a little while for him to pluck up the courage.
But I was surprised because he, as far as we knew, he had no girlfriends. He had no interest in romance or anything like that, so I was pretty amazed. But he knew what he wanted. Very quickly he proposed to me.
Now then, those Kardomah days, they were very special to him. It was a very special time here in Swansea, a cultural time.
Oh, it was the time of his life that, because he met Dylan, who was a great friend of his life. I think he was much more attached to Dylan than Dylan was to him or to anybody. But it was to know another poet in Swansea who was seriously writing poetry and seriously interested in poetry, and also had a tremendous sense of humour, because a lot of things that are written about Vernon, they're very serious. They never say that he really was a very funny man.
The play reflects that. There's a couple of things I'd just like to point out. Now, the play is written in two different times. The first part of the play is set in 1967, 50 years ago.
I think so, yes. No good talking about dates to me.
So it's set in the new Kardomah, and there's an American student. Now, the play is actually written from your memories. All of these things happened, not at the same time, but these are all real things. The American student that we'll be seeing this morning, she's a real character.
So she was indeed, yes. She pursued Vernon like a vampire. And she was last seen after he died with an old hat of his, clutching it to her bosom and weeping bitterly. She really loved him. This is nice for an American. You don't think that the British poetry means that much to him. But it did to her. He did make people were very much attached to him because he was so unaffected and plain and witty. People don't say often how very funny Vernon was, but he had people, screaming with laughter. That's, I think, why Dylan originally became so fond of him. Just because he made Dylan's kind of jokes and their conversation. I wish some of it could be recorded.
Well, and that's sort of what you've done with this play. You've recorded special moments. Some of the other characters, so that people get an idea of who they were. Obviously, people will recognise Dylan Thomas. The waitress, she's there in 1937, she's there in 1967. The same waitress.
That's right. when she was a young waitress, Dylan particularly used to tease her a lot, you know, flirt with her. Vernon didn't flirt, he didn't know how to. Dylan did flirt, and she became very fond of him. And then when he came back, after he was married, he came back to Swansea. There she was, still preserving in lovers.
So that's that. Now there's another character, Tom. Alfred James, people would probably recognise from being a painter, and a fantastic painter in his own right. Tell me a little bit about Tom, so we understand who Tom is, played by Kev Jones this morning.
Tom Warner was an orphan. He'd been brought up by two aunts who lived in that block of flats on the way to the uplands.
Oh.
What are they called? I can't remember now. But they lived there, and Tom lived with them. And he had, because he was a musician, he got to know Dan Jones when Dan came back. And he was introduced to Fred and Vernon and, you know, this group. It was very nice for them to have a musician. No, he wasn't interested in poetry or art or anything, you see. He just waited to get in bits about music and works on sometimes.
There's another character in the play that I think we need to explain. His name is Francis. It'll become obvious why we're explaining who Francis was. He was a Frenchman.
He was Vernon's, one of his closest friends. He'd come over before the war to, as an assistant, he was only 19, to the Ram School. And it was Dylan's father, when he found out that Francis was interested in poetry, he said, well, we've got a poet here, you should meet him. Of course, his only son, of course, was in London at that time. But he introduced Francis and Vernon, and they became close friends. And they used to like to make multilingual puns in their letters. If we had a collection of their letters, they were immensely clever at that. Vernon used to read me, he kept some of them, and he used to read me these. And really, if they could have been published, they could have been published in Punch.
So we will see, well, we won't actually see Francis, but we'll hear about Francis in the play, and let me just say that he's French. So that will make sense of that part of the play. Fans of Vernon's work all around the world, but in particular Dr. Rowan Williams, the former Archbishop of Canterbury. Now, sadly he can't be with us today, but he sent us a little message, and Peter Richards, who's going to be performing today, would you mind just reading out the message from Rowan Williams?
I'm glad to know that Vernon's untimely death is being marked in this way, dear Gwen, and that your play is going to be read and posted for a wide audience. You know how much Vernon means to me as a poet. I have just been writing an introduction to a new translation with Gwyneth Lewis of Taliesin, and have taken Vernon's Taliesin poems as the high point of 20th century appropriations of the Taliesin figure, and I'm thinking of writing something a bit longer on this later on. His stature grows all the time in my mind. I do hope I'll have the chance to read your text. I wish all good things for the anniversary commemoration, and send my very warmest greetings from Vernon's College, which is, despite his interrupted career here, justly proud of the association. Very affectionately yours, Rowan.
Lovely, well done. And Rowan he's the master of Magdalen College, and Vernon went there for a little while.
Say again?
Vernon went to Magdalen College, Cambridge, just for a little while. He did.
For a year, and then he left.
Well, thank you very much to Peter. We'll see a little bit from Peter now. So let me just explain what's going to happen. This is a script in hand reading. It's a radio play originally, Gwen. You wrote it for radio.
Yes, really.
So
you know, there's no movement in it.
well, we put a little bit of movement, but not too much. So there will be a script in hand. There will be some props, there will be some costume, but really this is a radio play, but for Facebook Live today. Gwen, it's lovely to have you with us. I'm going to leave you now, and do you know what? There'll be music playing anytime soon.
No, but I wasn't told what I was coming to see.
I hope it's not too much of a bad surprise.
It might be about, you know. I might be going to have my hair cut.
But I hope you enjoy this program. Well, this is your play. It's Kardomah Voices by Gwen Watkins. Please, another round of applause.
Are you fixing the piece? Oh. How lovely was that?
nice to see you, Mr. Watkins. You haven't been in here for a long time.
No. I'm off to America in a few weeks, and I'm terribly busy. There's an awful lot to do when you're leaving home for a year. I'm only here now to meet a student. I daren't meet her at home or in college because I can't get rid of her. As it is, she'll probably walk with me to the bus and then get on it and come to Penard with me. I'll have to think up some excuse why I have to leave her. There she is now.
What? That great big girl with printing all over her vest?
Yes, that's the name of her college in America. Susquehanna State College.
Good thing she's got room for it all then. Shall I bring you coffee?
Yes, and one for her, please.
Yoo-hoo! Mr. Watkins! Oh, here I am.
Manners. Shouting like mad, drawing attention. Her mother should give her bottom a good smacking.
Say, I'm sure glad you could see me today, Professor, because I've had a letter from my supervisor back home, all about my thesis, and, well, he certainly has got some strange ideas. I was wondering whether you could write to him and tell him what you and I decided was the best way to tackle it.
Well, it was more what you decided, if you remember.
Only I can't stay long today because there's a guy from oceanology that I met in the bar last night. Well, he's going to Lon to monitor tides or something. So, well, I said I'd go along. I haven't seen the boathouse yet. He's picking me up in 20 minutes. And I haven't been in the Kardomah before. Was this where you always used to sit with Dylan and the others?
Oh, no. No, this isn't that Kardomah at all. The old Kardomah was destroyed when it was bombed in the war. You weren't born then.
Oh, gee, is that so? Well, that is a disappointment. But say, Professor, I'd better read to you what my supervisor says. Well, he begins by saying he doesn't think there's enough material to base my thesis just on that period around the Kardomah, because that wasn't a really important period. Now, I want to know what you think about that.
The hissing of the butt ends in the drains of the coffee dashes, and the tinkle and the gibble-gabble of the morning young lounge lizards as they talked. And it would have been perfectly all right, but for Vernon's bicycle. We had a drink at the White Rose first, so that he could leave it there by the side. And then we worked our way along to my lovely Mumbles Mermaid, where we met a lot of chaps we knew, who all bought me a drink, because it was my birthday. And then we worked our way back. We only got there just before closing time, but they throw you out very polite there. Not like Swansea pubs. And then we started to walk up Newton Road. But that blasted bike was the trouble all the time. Vernon thought I was pushing it, and I thought he was, and we had to go back and look for it. And then I grazed my shin on the pedal, and Vernon fell over, and the handlebars went crooked. Then I did a dance in Underhill Park.
Why did you do that?
Oh, I don't know, Tom. It was my birthday, and I felt like it. I lost Vernon there, and then I went to the back room of the Newton Inn.
Where is Vernon anyway? He's usually here by this time on a Saturday. Oh, that sounds like him.
Dylan, they've got that new Koala Press book of Yeats in at Morgan and Higgs. It'll take a month's salary to buy, but I've got to have it.
I hope you've left enough for coffee, because we're all parched waiting for you.
Oh, sorry. Miss, 4 coffee dashes here, please.
And bring us some more sugar, would you? My lovely Megan.
This was full when you came in. You've been eating it again, haven't you?
Well, he can't help it, man. He has to have something sweet to suck.
It's because my mother didn't breastfeed me for long enough.
You want to wash your mouth out with soap? Not sugar? No more dirty talk or I'll fetch Mrs. Bevan and she'll have the lot of you out of here in 2 shakes of lamb's tail.
She wouldn't turn away such valuable customers. We come here 3 or 4 times a week.
Yes, and drink 2 lots of coffee dashes in an hour and a half. Only waiting for an excuse she is to get rid of you. And when I tell her about the sugar...
Ah, but you won't, will you, my lovely? And you'll come for a walk along the prom with me tomorrow? Meet me by the ice cream shop, and I'll buy you a chocolate one.
You can't even buy a cup of coffee, Mr. Cheeky. So are you going to buy me an ice cream?
There, you've annoyed her now.
Oh, don't you believe it. She'll get our sugar, and she'll come out with me tomorrow.
Well, Vernon, my artist eye detects that you're on your way to some sort of sport or game.
Yes. Oystermouth are playing Llanelli at the King George Fields, and I can't stay long because my bike is in the repair shop.
Oh, yeah. We heard about that little affair. What's the damage?
Handlebars bent, chain off.
You shouldn't have fallen over your beastly bike. That's what twisted the handlebars.
I only fell over it trying to help you up.
There's your sugar. 8 pieces, 2 each. And don't let him eat it all.
You're a sweetheart, if ever there was one.
And if I did happen to be going for a walk on the prom tomorrow afternoon, it wouldn't be with you, Mr. Show-Off. It'd be with my friend Hetty. So there.
Ah, that's the one with the glasses and the thick ankles. Do you want to come too, Tom?
You know I'm tongue-tied with girls.
What about that typing class you went to? There must have been lots of girls there.
Oh, it was a disaster. They were all girls. Oh, and they giggled at me.
But that means they like you.
Oh, they were laughing at me because we had to type to music. And I couldn't. It was such awful music. In an English country garden on one side of the record and the sort of piece you'd learn in your first year on the other.
The Elves' Caprice, Gollywog two-step.
It's that sort of thing. I couldn't type. My fingers kept playing the piano notes. Money. That's our problem. If we had plenty of money, we could take girls to cinemas and cafes and dances.
Yes, but you still wouldn't be able to talk to them.
Well, it wouldn't matter if you could take them places.
And we wouldn't have to drink this muck. This is just hot water with a dash of milk and a shot of camp coffee out of a bottle.
Anyway, your father gives you an allowance for helping with his deliveries.
But it all goes on canvas, paints and frames.
Oh.
I haven't got time to go out with girls anyway.
You would have, if you painted a bit faster. When you were painting those lobsters, they went green before you'd finished. I got the shock of my life when I came to your studio one night, and there was a ghastly green phosphorescent glow at the top of the stairs. When you have an exhibition, the catalogue will say, Alfred James, 1 egg. 1935 to 37.
Well, I think Fred's painting is absolutely wonderful. If anybody ever left me any money, the first thing I'd do would be to buy that one of the 2 fish on the plate.
Portrait of an original bream.
Oh, I'd buy the one of the hyacinths. I could look at that one forever. Fred, the girl at the next table is listening to us. And she's looking at you.
Well, more of that and louder. Say how good-looking I am.
Then she'll know it was all lies.
Nope. Her boyfriend's turned up. She's not listening anymore.
Girls can be an awful waste of time, too. You know that girl you met, Tom, the last time you came to tea?
The gorgeous blonde like Jean Harlow. She asked me if I was at college.
I suppose so. Well, she asked if she could come out with me in my canoe one afternoon. And it would have been rude to say no, so I had to take her, though I'd wanted to try to get to Oxwich and back. And do you know what? While she was pushing the canoe out, she fell, face down in the water. Of course, she said she had to take her wet clothes off and run about in the sun to get dry. I had my bathing trunks and a towel that I kept hidden in a hole in the rocks, and I had to bring the canoe in and find those for her, and then she said she'd have to go home, so I had to lend her my towel to take her wet things home in. And after all that, I didn't have time to try for Oxwich. I just did my usual paddle round to Pobbles. I was pretty fed up, I can tell you.
It didn't occur to you, I suppose, that she fell in on purpose?
Why on earth would she do that?
Because she's keen on you. Because she thought if you saw her in all her glory, you'd be keen on her too. You see, I should have seen it as a direct invitation to, you know, kiss her, cuddle her a bit, put your arms round her, you know.
Am I the only one of us who's never seen a girl naked?
I say, keep your voice down, will you?
Well, I am I? Have you seen a girl naked, Fred?
Of course I have. I've seen dozens in life class. Well, 3 or 4 anyway.
You have, Dylan, haven't you?
Ask me no more, for fear I should reply. Others have held their tongues, and so can I. Hundreds have died and told no tale before. Ask me no more, for fear I should reply.
Why is he talking like that?
It's a poem, Fred. A poem by Houseman.
Well, I wish you wouldn't.
Tom, if you could have a film star in your room, which one would it be?
Well, I'd be too shy to speak to her anyway, but... Jean Harlow, I suppose. Ooh, I love blondes.
I'd have Greta Garbo. You'd never get tired of drawing those planes, those shadows on that face.
I'd choose Mae West. You could learn something useful from her. What about you, Vernon? What would take your very specialized fancy?
Oh. Well, it would have to be the Marx Brothers, I suppose. I love them. I really love them. I'd go as far as Bridgend to see a new Marx Brothers film.
You're supposed to choose a girl, Vernon.
Oh. Well, then, Margaret Dumont. She has that wonderful look of superb dignity when Groucho insults her.
But she's 40 if she's a dame.
I don't think we're ever going to make a romantic out of you, Vernon.
You don't need to. I am one. Ooh. We were the last romantics. Chose for theme traditional sanctity and loveliness. That's all I want to write about.
Is he talking poetry again?
I'm afraid so, Fred. And it's poetry by his god, Yeats. It won't be easy to stop him.
Banking isn't a very romantic job for a poet, Vernon.
Oh, I don't know. Macefield was in a bank and T.S. Eliot was in Lloyd's, like me. And anyway, I had to earn my living, and you can't see me as a surgeon or a barrister, can you? Mm. I'm quick at figures, and my father's a bank manager, so he got me into the bank.
You're quick at setting fire to loads of banknotes too, aren't you?
Who told you that?
Your manager told my dad.
You can't do anything in this town without everybody knowing about it. It wasn't loads, it was 1 packet of 10s, and I just happened to hold the taper too long to the sealing wax. The brown paper caught fire, but only a few of the notes got singed.
I don't think I've ever seen a £10 note. Not even a singed one.
But I'd really like to have been an explorer. Oh.
You get lost going into the next street.
Dr. Livingstone got lost too. Or I could have been an inventor.
Vernon, you can't turn on a tap.
No, but the sort of inventor who has ideas that other people carry out. I once wrote to the Admiralty with an idea for ships with legs.
Oh, you don't mean that. You're having us on.
No, really. The legs are retractable. They fold up and lie along the sides of the ship. You just let them down when there are submarines or torpedoes about, and they lift the ship out of the water.
And did the Admiralty reply?
They did, actually. They said my letter was receiving attention. Oh. But I had some other ideas about what to do when you have a cold.
Oh, I'd like to hear those. I really have a frightful cold. Dylan says I could play the trumpet with my guitar. The last time I had a cold,
the next time you have one, try this. Get as many germs as you can into your mouth and run as fast as you can for quite a way. Then open your mouth and turn right round and run in the opposite direction. Or put your head underwater and blow out as hard as you can. That drowns a lot of the germs, you see.
What does running in the opposite direction do?
Well, the germs are taken by surprise, and they go on in the first direction.
Do you know, Vernon, if I were you, I wouldn't think of leaving the bank just yet.
Oh, I shan't. My father was the youngest bank manager in Lloyd's, and I shall be the oldest cashier. I shall never get promotion.
Talking of which, Vernon, I've got some more ready for you to type. Dents are getting impatient about my next book.
Right. I'll call for them when I finish at the bank on Monday. But you know, Dylan, you ought to leave out those two, now say nay, and how soon the servant's son. The critics will say they're just meaningless, and I haven't the faintest idea what they mean myself.
Well, nor have I. But Give the poor old critics a bone.
Oh, for heaven's sake, don't start talking about poetry again or I'm off.
No, and don't let us talk about money anymore either. It's horribly depressing. I simply can't go on living with my aunts anymore. They'd be quite well off if they hadn't taken in their brother's penniless orphan years ago.
Oh, Tom, you're the bright star of their existence. You know you are.
Well, I'm going to shine somewhere else. I'm going to join the army. I'll get a 4-year commission as a musician.
You look good in a uniform, Tom. You'll have the girls buzzing around you like bees.
I still wouldn't know what to say to them.
Oh, it's quite easy. Girls are perfectly easy to talk to. Well, the last time I went to Bristol to see Francis, he took me to his local brothel. Well, you know the French are rather different about that sort of thing. Anyway, Francis told me his family doctor in Paris said it was necessary for his health that he goes at least once a fortnight. And his father even sends him the money, so he has to go.
I don't believe this.
Oh, it's true. So while Francis went upstairs, I waited in the hall downstairs, you know, and there were 1 or 2 very nice girls there, and we had a good talk. They were very friendly, and they called some others down as well.
I bet they did. I don't suppose they'd ever seen anything like Vernon.
No, really. One of them said she wrote poems too.
You talk to them about poetry?
What else would Vernon talk about?
And she read one to me.
Ah.
She said she had a lot more in her room if I'd like to go and see them.
And did you?
No! Though the lady who looked after them said I'd be very welcome. But Francis was ready to go by that time, and it wasn't a very good poem anyway. It was just about forget-me-nots in a country stream.
Oh, well, no use going upstairs for forget-me-nots. But take me with you next time you go to see Francis Vernon.
The trouble is, he has to go back to do his military service sometime. He only got a deferral because he's a student. If there was any sort of, political upset, he'd have to go back immediately.
My father thinks there's bound to be a war sooner or later. The Germans are already bombing Spain. Picasso painted a terrible picture of the bombing.
For God's sake, don't talk about the war in Spain. Did you hear that John Cornford was found there, riddled with bullets? And they only identified him because he had 18 poems in his pocket with his name on it. I met him once in a Soho pub.
Well, if there is a war, I wouldn't be able to kill anyone. I know I wouldn't.
I could, but I never would. I'd have to register as a conscientious objector. I wonder if they still go to prison.
I could punch people. I could probably even bite them. But I don't suppose there's a Royal Welsh Pacifist Punchers Regiment.
If there was, it would be mown down by machine guns. Don't you remember? Pale Ebenezer thought it wrong to fight, but Roaring Bill, who killed him, thought it right.
Yes, that's Belloc, isn't it? Why does nobody read him now? He's such a good poet. Do you know that one...
What did I say about poems?
I could quite easily kill people if they wrecked Gower. If they built Autobahnen over Kevin Bryn, or tank factories at the top of Push D, or guard rooms in Bishopston Valley. I'm a very good shot with a revolver, too. I could kill quite a lot before they killed me.
Well, this is a day of surprises. First, Vernon in a brothel, and now he's coming out as a mad shooter.
I'm pretty good with a rifle, too.
You lot had better get a move on. Mrs. B's got her eye on you, and you haven't ordered anything for ages.
Oh, good Lord, I should have left minutes ago.
And if I did go for a walk along the prom tomorrow afternoon, I wouldn't be looking for nobody in a green shirt and a fancy scarf.
Wouldn't you, Maggie, darling? But I'd be looking out for you. Oh, and plain old Hetty, too.
Oh, you wicked, you.
I seem to have lost a hockey pad.
Oh, it's under the table.
Oh, thanks.
Oh, steady on, don't wreck the place.
Old Kierkegaard's under the table, too. You won't know whether it's ethical to hit a goal unless you've got him.
I always carry Kierkegaard in my pocket. Goodbye now. I'll see you next week. And I'll come up to Cumdonkin on Monday, Dylan.
There goes one of Vernon, one of Swansea's 2 great poets. Safe in the arms of Jesus as usual. Well, time to be off. I'm tired of love. I'm still more tired of rhyme. But money gives me pleasure all the time. The Kardomah Cafe was razed to the snow. The voices of the coffee drinkers, poets, painters, musicians in their beginnings, lost in the willy-nilly flying of the years and the flakes.
So you see, he's a real nice guy, my supervisor, but he gets some crazy ideas sometimes. But you'll put him straight, won't you, Professor?
Well, look, why don't you leave his letter with me, and I'll go over it thoroughly and tell you what I think later.
I'll do that thing. Hey, there's my lift waving from the door. I gotta go. See you, Professor.
Well, not too bad, was it? You didn't stay all that long. You going to stay for lunch now, Mr. Watkins? Mushroom omelette, very nice today.
No. Do you know, I'm going to walk up to Cumdonkin Park and say goodbye to Dylan Thomas's stone. It'll be a year before I see it again. I like America very much, and I have a lot of friends there, but I always miss Swansea and Gower. I've spent nearly all my life here. It's where I belong.
We'll miss you too. But there, our time of life, a year goes by like lightning. Oh, we'll be seeing you back here in no time at all.
Of course you will. I don't much like saying goodbye, so I'll just go.
The BBC News Service regrets to announce the sudden death of Vernon Watkins, a Welsh poet, while playing tennis in Seattle in the United States of America. Mr. Watkins produced 5 books of verse and 2 of translations, but was best known for his publication of letters written to him by his great friend Dylan Thomas. He was a member in the 1930s of that group of brilliant young artists, poets and musicians who used to meet at the Kardomah Cafe in Swansea.